Hello and welcome back. I have my bookshelf here and then I have my Christmas tree like right here. You can't see it. I'm literally touching it right now. So I'm very like cramped in, but I forgot I had to film this video today and I'm losing light outside and I don't have any other artificial lighting that doesn't look like super orange on camera. So here we are. All that being said, okay. Let's just get on with the purpose of this video. So I read 5 books in the month of November. This will probably be a shorter video for a recap, but I'm going to try to go in depth. That way I'm not wasting your time with a really short video. Anyways, the book that I started off November with is A Curse for True Love by Stephanie Garber. I have the Barnes & Noble Special Edition. I don't know if the regular hardcover has this, but I love the inside of the dust jacket. It's so pretty. It says The Ballad of the Archer and the Fox, which if you know anything about the story, it's amazing. I can't really go very into detail with this book because it's the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy, which follows Evangeline Fox and Jax, which is the Prince of Hearts. This book was released in October, and I have a spoiler reading vlog out for this and The Ballad of Never After, which you can go watch if you want my all my thoughts and you've read this book. But anyways, I did really enjoy this book. It has 3 points of view in here. The 3rd point of view that you kind of didn't expect, I didn't really like all that much. I understood that it served a very important purpose in the story to move the plot along, but it just was kind of boring and it was really hard to connect to that character. Even though you got to be in his point of view, there was not as much romance in here as I would have liked, but that's a very common complaint about this book. Otherwise, those are like the only complaints that I can remember. Wow, English, that I can remember having about this book. I really did love it. I love the world of Once Upon a Broken Heart. It's very fairy tale-esque, not very hard to understand. And as someone who takes forever to figure out what's going on in any kind of book, I really appreciated that. So yeah, not much to say about this book. Like I said, this is the 3rd book in a trilogy, so I can't really say much. But yeah, I gave this book 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It just wasn't as good as The Ballad of Never After. Next, I read Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. This is a story that follows 20-something-year-old Charlotte Regan. I say Regan because it doesn't have the A in there. She works at a art museum. She is bipolar. She is like an ex-convict. Is that what it's called when someone gets out of prison? I don't know. She's gotten out of prison very recently. And then you have Aldo, who is a professor at a university. He's studying to get his doctorate in math. He's obsessed with time, and he also has this kind of past with mental health and different things. It is a very, very prestigiously written book. It feels like something that you are reading for school that has an intellectual level, like that goes just way over your head. But if you go in expecting that, and if you like that kind of thing, you'll probably love this book, because the way that bipolar disorder was explored in this book was really beautiful, and I connected to it a lot. I loved the way it was depicted. I loved the way it was written. I'm just gonna find you one of these tabs and read it to you. I'll read you the one on the 1st page. I literally tabbed the 2nd page of this book. Either it was everything to know the whole story, to look back and see the shape of it while standing along its periphery, or it was nothing, because things in their entirety were less fragile and therefore less beautiful than the pieces within the frame. So that's what reading the entire book is like. So if that just went over your head, that's pretty much how the entire book is. It's a really pretty love story. You get to see a lot into their personal struggles as individuals, and also how both of them are trying to navigate a relationship, and the struggles that each of them has individually, both with mental health and with relationships and other stuff. It's just such a beautiful story. But it's a book that I think everyone should read. I don't know. I gave it 4.25 stars just because it was very slow. The way the point of view was written kind of got a little confusing sometimes. Other than that, it was a really good book. I wouldn't consider it necessarily a comfort read because of how much brain power it takes to read, but it was really nice because I felt seen almost in Charlotte Regan's personality. The next book I read in November was released in November This is my first Ali Hazelwood book, Check and Mate. It is her YA debut. I'm sure you've heard so much about this book already this month. Who is already a big Ali Hazelwood fan. I never read Ali Hazelwood before this. I hadn't really taken interest in her STEM romances. Not like I know anything about chess either. But I think Barnes & Noble was running a pre-order sale, and I just ordered this because I wanted the $40 free shipping or whatever. So I just chose this. This book was actually really good, and it really surprised me. This book was just like a cute, fluffy, like cotton candy cloud. It was so nice to read. It was so light and easy and fun, especially after reading Alone with You in the Ether. It was so nice. So you have Mallory Greenleaf, and she has played chess for pretty much her entire life, but she took a break for a long time, and you don't really know why. And her family's kind of struggling. She's supporting the family. She's like even though she's like 18, she's a senior in high school. And then there's Nolan Sawyer, who's the #1 chess player in the world. He's like 20. They're just really old for young adult characters. But you have both of them. It's very, very much like a rivals to lovers type romance. I saw so much of myself in Mallory and how she deals with her issues, because she's very much kind of like I'm gonna leave before I get hurt kind of person, if that makes sense. That I felt really seen in that as well. This book is just really cute. I really don't know what else to say. And there's a very, very heady subplot of chess. I know nothing about chess. The extent that I know about chess is from the Inheritance games and one game of chess that I played when I was like 13 that lasted 5 minutes. So there's that. But even if you don't know anything about chess, I feel like you could really, really enjoy this book, because I am a nerd and I'm also an athlete, and the way that chess is described like as a sport in this and how much intellectual ability goes into chess, I was still able to really connect with it. So I ended up giving this book a 4.25 stars. It almost feels a little bit too old to be YA, but it still feels cheesy enough to be YA. If that makes sense. I don't know. I really loved this book, and I will be reading Ali Hazelwood again. Now, I have been in a romance mood for the longest time. I've really only been buying romance books, and typically I try to mix in a few like thrillers. I didn't really do that in November until I picked up, what is this book called? Local Woman Missing by Mary, whatever that name is. I'm not even gonna try. So there's this woman who went missing like 11 years before the book takes place, and then there's this other woman who went missing who had a 6-year-old daughter that also went missing within the same time frame, and the book starts when the 6-year-old daughter returns. This book was a lot. It was definitely very thriller, very twisty-turny. It was a little dark for my taste. I say that every time I read a thriller. Maybe I just shouldn't read a thriller. You're following 3 different timelines, so you're following the mother. You're following the mother of the 6-year-old who disappeared. You're following the point of view of her, like before she disappeared, and then you're following the point of view of her neighbor right immediately after the woman disappeared, and then you're following the point of view of the little girl's brother in the present time after this girl has returned, and like they're trying to figure out what happened. So it gets a little bit confusing. The neighbor's point of view gets really, really, really boring, at least through the first half of the book. Like, it took me a very long time to get invested in her point of view. I think I enjoyed the book more in the beginning, and then about halfway through the book, there's like a big twist where you find out what happened to one of the women, and it lost me after that. It got very, very dark, very twisted. However, the twist at the end, I probably should have guessed. For a thriller, it was a good book. I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars, which is not bad, especially for a thriller for me. This is one of the books that I've seen most talked about throughout this year, or at least since June. And I think, I'm just going to preface this with saying, I think this was very much a right book, wrong time scenario. But I read Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. and I rated it 4 stars, which is obviously still like an amazing rating, but I think if I had read this when I was in a slightly better headspace, I probably would have rated it 5 stars. So if you haven't heard about this book yet because you're living under a rock, so you have Iris and Roman, and they're both writing for the same newspaper, and they're competing for the columnist position. Meanwhile, there's this war going on between this one god and this other god, and you don't really know why the war started or like what's going on. Like, you don't really know what's happening in the war. They also have these magical typewriters that they write letters to each other back and forth. So they have their typewriter and they like have their sheet of paper, and after they write it, they like fold their piece of paper up and they stick it under their wardrobe, and it like magically transports to the other person's wardrobe. And Iris doesn't know it's Roman, but Roman knows it's Iris. So you watch them write letters back and forth. You watch her slowly figure out who she's talking to. It's a very sweet story. Roman falls first. It is the cutest thing ever. He is such a simp for Iris. It is so sweet. I rated it 4 stars because of how slow it moved. I felt like it was really slow. A lot of people say that they're confused by the war. I don't think I got confused by the war, or if I did, that's just how I read fantasy, and I just expect myself to be confused. So I didn't really care that much. I did kind of like the war aspect. I've never really read a war book, or if I have well, I probably have read a war book. I just haven't read one this year that is heavily focused on war, because this is a very heavy subplot of the war. It's very light fantasy though. Like I said, the only confusing part is the war. And I didn't even find it that confusing because I don't think I cared enough about the gods and trying to like figure out how the war started. The book is really cute. The ending breaks your heart. I'm very, very excited now to read the next book, which comes out the day after Christmas. And I'm hoping that I like it even more than I liked this one. I'm sure that if I reread this at a different time, I would probably have rated it 5 stars. But I didn't. I read it while I was in a horrible headspace, so I wasn't very motivated to read it, therefore the rating I feel like kind of suffered. But anyways, that's it for today, guys. I hope I didn't ramble on too long. I hope I made sense, because my brain is all over the place right now. I literally forgot I had to film this video, so here we are. I hope you enjoyed to some degree. Anyways, that's all for now, and I will see you as soon as I possibly can. Bye!